Good morning, everyone. So glad to see you all. I would like to introduce Ms. Anuvinda to you, who will be the moderator for the session today. Can I have her profile on the screen, please? Yeah, Ms. Anuvinda has done her BA Philosophy from St. Stephen's College, Delhi. She's a law faculty at Delhi University. She had practiced at the Supreme Court of India as well as at the High Court of Delhi. She's a general secretary. She was a general secretary and CEO of the YWCA Delhi. As of now, she is the executive director of Christian Coalition for Health. It's a coalition of the Catholics, Protestants, and the Evangelicals healthcare networks. Also, both the CMC, Vellore, and Ludhiana is part of the coalition. Well, we know Anuvinda over 5 years. We had been working very closely with all our networks, including CHAI. And one of the main functions of Christian Coalition for Health is to do some advocacy, mostly at the national level. Sometimes we also do at the state level. Anuvinda's name indicates that she is a Malayali, but she is not actually a Malayali. She has some roots in Kerala. We have coached her well, especially regarding pronouncing some names like Parathadam. But since Malayalam is not her mother tongue, if she makes a mistake, consider it as a kind of an entertainment session to make this virtual meeting more interesting. So with that brief introduction, over to you, Anuvinda. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Matthew. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
We will begin today's proceedings with the CHAI anthem.
Give us your mind, give us your vision, and give
Before we begin today's AGBM, I would like to call upon Mr. George K. Paul, the Communications Consultant to CHAI, to provide you with instructions on today's Zoom meeting. Mr. Paul graduated from IIT Mumbai with a master's degree in design. He has a vast experience in print, identity, and UX design. He is the founder, design lead, and director of graphic design agency. Currently, he is the principal of Solar Design Practice, focus on non-profit organizing. Over to you, Mr. Paul.
A hearty good morning to everyone. Manish, could you pull up my presentation? Yeah. All right. So I just want to give you a short walkthrough on using the Zoom platform on which we are having this meeting. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with the platform. So for those who are already familiar with the Zoom interface, please bear with me. Okay, I'll explain the desktop version first. The desktop version is the one which you see on your desktop PCs and laptops. And then I'll move on to the mobile application because there are slight differences between the two. So on the desktop, you can see this row of buttons at the bottom of the screen. The first two buttons allow you to control your audio and video. Next slide. Okay, the first one, it is the audio control. It is the mute, unmute button. It'll be on mute for all participants by default, okay? The participants won't be permitted to speak during the session. All of the speakers will get the option to unmute themselves. And the speakers, please make sure that you click the unmute button before you start talking. And when you're unmuted, the button will say mute, okay? Like the button on the right-hand side of the screen right now. And this is how you should look while you speak. Okay. Next. Yeah. This is the start or stop video button. And this allows you to start or stop your own video. So if you have a good internet connection, we recommend you keep your video on so that you'll be visible to all. Now, if your connectivity is poor, if your audio is frequently breaking up, stopping your video will be better. It will help to improve the audio quality. Okay, next button. Participants. Clicking this button will open the participants window where you can see the list of participants. Move on to the next slide, please. Yeah, so on the right-hand side, you can see the participants list. And within this window, there are a few buttons at the bottom, which we'll be using during the business session. And it will be explained during that time. And for the time being, we won't be using any of them. Next slide, please. Okay, there's a chat button next to it. And if you click the chat button, you can access chat window. Next slide, please. So on the right-hand side, there is a chat window. And you can view the conversation of the entire meeting because we already have some chats there. You can click the chat button to see the chats that are posted already. And by default, if you type in something and hit enter, it will be posted. Okay, hitting enter will send the post. It won't move you to the next line. Okay, and everyone will be able to see what you just typed in. And you also have the option to chat privately with one of the participants. You can use the drop-down button to select the person you want to chat with. Okay, now moving on, next slide. Okay, there is something called the speaker view at the top right corner. It controls your view. There are two options, the speaker view and the gallery view. If you are currently on gallery view, it will show you speaker view and vice versa, just like mute, unmute. Okay, this is the speaker view button. If you hit speaker view, this is the screen. This is the screen that you'll see. You'll see the speaker enlarged, okay? And all the participants will be shown in thumbnails at the top of the screen. And if you go to the gallery view, next slide, yeah, it shows all participants in evenly sized squares on a grid. Okay, and the individual speaker's box will be highlighted. The person who is speaking will be highlighted with an yellow outline. And depending on your computer, you can display up to 49 participants in one page of gallery view. Okay, that's the maximum that can be displayed if your screen is big enough. For today's meeting, excuse me. For today's meeting, we already have 210 participants. So you can use the arrows, the left and right arrows, to scroll to other pages if you want to see the other participants. Again, there is the leave button at the bottom right-hand corner, and that will end your participation in the meeting. So if you get disconnected from the meeting at any point, you can join again by clicking the link which was sent to you. Okay? So that completes the desktop version. Now let us look at the mobile app. Okay, so the mobile screen will look something like this. Okay, please ignore the pictures on screen, because you'll see pictures of dolls and all. It's just a mock-up. So it starts out with your audio and video both muted, and you'll notice that if you don't touch the screen for a few seconds, those controls will disappear. So to bring those back up, just tap the screen. Next, please. Yeah, so sometimes it'll just disappear. You just have to touch the screen, and the controls will reappear. Next. Okay. And most phones have cameras at the front and the back. So if your video is showing the view from the back camera, there's this little swap camera button on the top, and it'll switch to the front-facing camera. It'll show your face. Okay, next. Now you can access the gallery view here by swiping over to the right. So instead of clicking the gallery view as in the desktop, this is the major difference between the desktop version and the mobile version. So this swiping to the right will bring up the gallery view, and the gallery view only shows 4 people by default. So if there are more than 4 people in the meeting, you'll need to continue swiping to see the other one. So you'll have to keep on swiping to see everybody in today's meeting. Okay, now next one. So to access the chat function, it's not directly accessible from the main screen. So first you have to hit the participants button. Next. And now when you go to the participant screen, you can see the chat button is also visible. Okay, so you can click the chat button, you can touch the chat button to access the chat window. Next. Right, so chat works similarly as to the desktop version. Okay, and when there is a slideshow on screen, you have the option. So if your text is not clear, you have the option to pinch, and you can zoom and pan around. Next one, please. So you use 2 fingers to pinch the screen, and you can expand, you can zoom, and you can pan around. So that concludes our walkthrough. I hope that was helpful. Back to you, Anuvanda.
Mr. Paul, for the clear instructions that you've given us. On to the meeting. His Eminence Cardinal Oswald Gracious, His Grace Archbishop Prakash Mallavarapu, Sister Dr. Victoria Narichetti, President of CHAI, Reverend Dr. Father Matthew Abraham, Director General of CHAI, Reverend Sisters and Fathers, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the inaugural session of the 77th Annual General Body Meeting of the Catholic Health Association of India. Sister Dr. Victoria Narichetti, JMJ, has a master's degree in nursing and a PhD in hospital management. She has dedicated her life to healthcare services for 30 years. She has held leadership, administrative, and teaching roles in several institutions. She is currently the principal of St. Joseph's College of Nursing. She is the president of the Catholic Health Association of India. I now call upon Sister Victoria Narachetti to give the opening address. Over to you, Sister.
Thank you, Madam. A pleasant good morning and a warm welcome to all of you. Dear friends, we are fortunate to carry out the healing ministry of our Lord Jesus, the Divine Healer. I appreciate the commitment of CHAI family for rendering selfless service through his vast network, especially during this COVID-19 crisis. The coronavirus outbreak and lockdown has affected most of us, causing uncertainties, fear and anxiety. However, at the same time, it evoked positive and brave responses. The current situation is still difficult. However, we are confident that we can win the battle as long as we stand in solidarity with one another, connected and interdependent. The crisis also revealed our vulnerability, forcing us to figure out a new normal for the future. The member institutions of CHAI have been providing and will continue to provide affordable, accessible, compassionate and quality care to individuals and families. Provision of such services was possible despite several challenges because of our commitment to God and His people. As usual, thousands of people have benefited this year also from the services offered by the member institutions of CHAI. Along with the implementation of projects of CHAI as an NGO, we also focused on initiatives for strengthening CHAI as a network. I feel privileged to be the part of the CHAI family and to continue for the growth and welfare of the organization. I place on record my appreciation and gratitude for all the member institutions, regional units, diocesan units, fellow members of the board, Director General and staff of Central Office for their commitment, hard work and perseverance. May the Lord Almighty bless our organization to reach out to many more people with compassionate, affordable and quality care, promoting healing and hope for the humanity. With these opening remarks, let me move on to my official responsibilities of formally welcoming you. I am indeed glad and privileged to welcome each one of you to the 77th CHAI AGBM today. It is an event to celebrate our togetherness and share our inspirations and aspirations as a collective body. I am extremely happy to see you all participating in today's AGBM. I wish you all a pleasant and enriching day. I am fascinated about the fact that we have many eminent personalities for today's meeting. At the outset, it is my privilege to extend a warm welcome to His Eminence Cardinal Oswald Gracias, Archbishop of Bombay and President of CBCI. It is also my privilege to extend a cordial welcome to the Archbishop of Visakhapatnam, His Grace Most Reverend Prakash Mallavarpu, the Ecclesiastical Advisor of CHAI. Being an integral part of the CHAI family, Father Dr. Matthew Abraham, the Director General of CHAI, does not need a formal welcome. However, I extend him a warm and affectionate welcome to this meeting. For today's meeting, we have a very good panel of speakers whom we have chosen carefully. Father Paul Varghese Munjali, Executive Director of Caritas India, Father Joe Mannath SDB, National Secretary of Conference of Religious of India CRI, Father Edward Joseph, CSSR, Provincial Superior Redemptorist, Bangalore Province, Father Paul Pratyasham, Director of St. John's National Academy of Health Sciences, for Julius Arakkal, Health Secretary of Catholic Bishops Conference of India, Dr. Priya John, General Secretary of Christian Medical Association of India, Dr. Chaira Matthew, Executive Director of Emmanuel Hospital Association, Sister Dr. Beena Madhavat, UMI, President of Sister Doctors Forum of India, Sister Sarala Magwan, FC, President of Catholic Nurses Guild of India, Father John Varapalli, CMI, Executive Director and CEO of Rajagiri Hospital, Cochin, Mr. John Santosh, Founder and CEO of Billion Lives, a social impact tech company, Mr. George K. Paul, Communication Consultant of CHAI. I extend a warm welcome to all the speakers. We look forward to an enriching sharing of insights from these significant organizations. Today, we have with us the Executive Board members of CHAI, the Presidents and Directors of regional units, and many of the representatives from our member institutions. I extend a warm welcome to them as well. Today's meeting will be moderated by Ms. Anuvinda Worki, Executive Director of Christian Coalition for Health. She is associated with the CHAI for several years and knows our organization very well. We choose her as the moderator after considering several factors, and I am sure that she will be able to facilitate today's meeting very well. I extend a warm welcome to her as well. Once again, a warm welcome to each one of you, dear friends. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Victoria, for your warm welcome. His Eminence Cardinal Oswald Gracious is the Archbishop of Bombay and the President of CBCI. His Eminence has a doctorate in canon law from the Pontifical University, Rome. He is the President, was bestowed lawyer Francis. He's a member of the Congregation of Catholic Education and Political Council for Legislative Texts. We are honored to have you, Your Eminence, out of enormous encouragement to the Reverend Sisters and Fathers present here today, who under the most difficult circumstances are putting their lives on the line to serve the people who are closest to God's heart. I invite Your Eminence to kindly address the members of the Catholic Health Association of India with the inaugural address. You would need to unmute yourself, Your Eminence.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. I want to say how privileged I feel this morning to inaugurate this general body meeting of CHAI. I think it's the second time I'm doing so. 2007, I remember I addressed the general body meeting of CHAI. That was my first contact with CHAI, although I had met the office bearers several times. We are meeting in special circumstances. I think I'm addressing the general body, but I also want to take this opportunity to meet the members of CHAI, to see how much we appreciate your work, and to thank you and to congratulate you and wish you all the well for the future. The present pandemic has been a great problem for everybody, a great challenge for everybody, but also a great opportunity for us. The Lord calling us to work together and to bring relief and to bring His compassionate face right through. All our medical facilities and all our medical work of the church in India and worldwide is in response to the calling of our Lord consistently to reach out to the poor and to heal the sick. Our Lord Himself came to heal the sick, and so we as His disciples come to do the same. CHAI's present involvement with the pandemic began, I think, with a letter which I wrote to the Prime Minister soon after the lockdown, offering the assistance of the church in India for all work that the government wanted to do. We got an almost immediate response. The very next day, the Prime Minister's office replied, and a couple of days later, he had a conference, and then we were very privileged. To represent us was Father Matthew Abraham, representing Church in India, CHAI, and Father Paul Munjali of Caritas India. It was a very good meeting. About 3 days later or 4 days later, the Prime Minister's office again invited me for a meeting now with their many associations helping them. They chose about 20. And I was very happy to participate in that, to discuss our role in helping. And what I noticed after our interaction, that of all these important organizations which the government had chosen to plan or to envision the future, the Catholic Church was the one that had the most well-organized pan-Indian reach. It's very clear to me from all our discussions. And I feel the same also about CHAI. We're very proud that very recently India Today gave an award to Caritas India for being the best NGO giving health services to many people in India. We gave, according to our statistics, we helped 22.07 million people, and the church in India spent about, financially, we analyzed, 130 crores of rupees. And for this, really, it's a recognition of Caritas representing all of us, but really it's a tribute to the church in India. I want to say that every diocese in the country, all the religious congregations pooled their resources together and worked in a very, very coordinated manner to bring relief to people. So therefore, really, it's a credit to the church that they were faithful. We were faithful to the mission of Jesus. A very big important arm, that was the first immediate response because of the migrant issue. But the government was aware, and all of us were aware, that the big core of the problem is the medical situation, the pandemic. And for this, we had the excellent organization of CHAI helping. You have been reaching out in very many different ways. Father Matthew and I were sometimes in contact when we wanted to inform the government a few things. It happened a couple of times, but the government has been expressing their appreciation of also our health work. Our health work, our doctors, our nurses, our health assistants, our administrators, all associated with CHAI, coordinated together, are really in the front line of this big challenge and battle that we have for life itself, the safety, for the continuous existence of all of us on earth. Pope Francis has been consistently speaking of the necessity for us to pool our resources together. His most recent encyclical, Fratelli Tutti, again highlights this. I was very happy that Sister Victoria, in her inaugural address, spoke of solidarity. And that again is what Pope Francis has been asking us consistently. I share this with you, not only to prepare for the future, but to prepare the future. Ourselves being really protagonists in making the future a reality as we would like it to be, a place where all our brothers and sisters. And for this, solidarity is an important element. He mentions it in encyclical, and he had mentioned it earlier in his addresses before that, preparing people for the post-pandemic situation. The second reality which he spoke of consistently was that all of us together must realize our responsibility for working for the common good. He spoke that this is a moral obligation of each one of us, collaborating for the common good, very clearly having in mind what we have got to do the common good. The third responsibility, he said, we all have is to contemplate and see the good God has created for us, ourselves, our relationships, but also our creation, aware that we've got to preserve this also for future generations. And finally, Pope Francis has spoken of the necessity for subsidiarity, allowing everybody to be part of the organization, part of the renewal, part of the revival, small and big. The principle of subsidiarity, which allows everybody to make its contribution according to its level. Today, you're going to have many valuable exchanges. It's a formal meeting, being the general body meeting. I'm sure it'll be a very enriching meeting, enlightening our minds and encouraging us to go ahead. Many plans have been drawn. We are at the middle of the pandemic. It's very clear to all of us and the government also that we do not know everything that we need to know about the virus. We do not know everything that we need to know about its behavior pattern, and we are not very close to having either a medicine or a vaccine, and therefore we are in a difficult situation. The government is doing as much as it can. All of us are part of the government in that sense. All of us we govern ourselves. All of us have got to be part of this responsibility to make India once again stand on its feet, make the whole world stand on its feet. And I congratulate CHAI for all you've done. Thank you very, very much. You reached out. The urban centers have got facilities. I've seen that in Maharashtra. The rural areas are suffering from lack of adequate facilities, equipment, personnel, and etc. CHAI, however, has got its reach all over. Thank you very much. Keep up your good work. Sister Victoria, Father Matthew, and all the members of CHAI. God bless each one of you and have a fruitful meeting. Thank you. We are proud of you.
Thank you, Your Eminence. Your leadership in Indian philosophy. He was ordained at in 2012. He is head of Secretary General CCI, and I now call upon His Grace Archbishop Prakash Mallavara to address the gathering.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, yes.
So, good morning to everybody. Your Eminence Cardinal Oswald, President of CHAI, Sister Victoria, and Director Father Matthew, and all the regional presidents and executive members, CHAI board members, and all the participants of different CHAI units that are participating in the meeting today. Good morning to all of you, and I am privileged to address on this occasion all of you as ecclesiastical advisor. I hope what I put before you as my sharing and reflection will add some enthusiasm, more enthusiasm and more energy into all of you as we continue to face the pandemic COVID-19. So on the theme, responding to a pandemic, looking back to see into the future, there is no better way of reflecting as stakeholders and healthcare providers in this 77th CHAI General Body meeting. All of us are taken by shock and surprise by the COVID pandemic. It forced us to say, well, we cannot be indifferent to the fears and threats that it generated beyond all our imaginations and beyond all our calculations. Like in India, it was widely thought that this killer virus will not survive the high temperatures. But what response could we give? Later we see things have happened differently. Now coming to our response, what response could we give? So ill-prepared were all our hospitals and healthcare centers. As the chairperson of CBCI Office for Healthcare, for the first few weeks in the month of March, April, I was feeling benumbed and so inadequate to say anything, looking at the speed at which the COVID-19 coronavirus was spreading. Like many across the country, our archdiocese was confined to some food and grocery distributions to the poor and migrant workers in the area with the help of our social service society. What can we really do? I hope this was the experience of many of you. A couple of times I spoke to our secretary for Juris Arakkal. Then we said, let us call on Zoom meetings, all the regional secretaries of health commissions. By then, CHAI head office began to move, interacting with its members, and things began to emerge, the possibilities and opportunities to be there to extend our contribution. Sorry. We cannot stop stuck at the crossroads without deciding to move on in one direction or the other to keep the journey forward. For if some of the CHAI members were in a relatively comfortable situation, better equipped with the resources and personnel than others with limited financial resource and infrastructure facilities, everyone had to face and come to terms with this insecurity and helplessness in this unprecedented situation. But as members of the Catholic Church, Catholic Health Association of India, we manifested, and you, all members, have manifested, as ever before, the same compassionate heart towards the suffering humanity. Faith, hope, and love, the fundamental virtues of our Christian faith, have, I'm sure, enabled us to stand up to what appeared otherwise an insurmountable challenge. We began to think and make plans with courage and conviction. Though the financial implications were too huge to handle, we picked up confidence to say, we will respond as best as we can. We cannot do everything, but we can't end up doing nothing, was the message. This message spread fast across the regions, and slowly things began to happen. Here I must say one thing. In the Zoom meetings of CHAI, board meetings are interactive sessions with the members of regional units, and a couple of them arranged also by CBCI Office for Healthcare. Hundreds of people across the country have come forward to participate in these meetings. And I, for one, could see that there was a resurrection experience. From a state of inadequacy and helplessness to exuberance, enthusiasm, and confidence, then began the plans to put together our creative energies and get involved in concrete and constructive ways. The initiatives varied from bold decisions to opt for listing hospitals as COVID care centers, to entering into contracts with the local government departments, to handing over the hospitals to the government with agreed terms and conditions. Where such possibilities were not there because of the restrictions of the government, state or the district, We responded in other ways. For example, in Kerala, youth volunteer groups emerged with the initiative taken by Father Julius Arakkal and youth president of the region. These groups were formed to assist the COVID-19 victims by reaching out to them and their families with medicines, food, counseling, and care for the children and the homebound elderly, etc. Though all this is done in different measures by different member units of CHAI and in varying situations, there has been one common feeling. We can do something and we are not alone. CHAI head office was there right from the beginning with ever energetic and enthusiastic Dr. Father Matthew, and CBCI Office for Healthcare with confidence instilling person Father Julius Arakkal, and a number of collaborators who were generous and willing to accompany us. A lot of practical tips and useful information were passed on. Sharing of experiences by different members in different regions, I think, helped tremendously. Catholic healthcare providers were in the scene in different pockets of this huge nation, perhaps may not have been visible in some places at all. It might appear like a drop in the ocean, but it is a valuable and significant one. Those who received the services will certainly testify to that. I must recall here, as spiritual advisor or ecclesiastical advisor, the miracle of the multiplication of the 5 loaves and the 2 fish that comes to my mind. From the response of our Lord Jesus to the plight of the great multitude of people, tired and hungry, whom he felt were like sheep without a shepherd, his mercy and compassionate heart, a merciful, compassionate heart, saw the immediate need of the people. The disciples also saw, but understood the situation, but they responded differently. They said, send them to nearby towns that they might buy some food for themselves. But Jesus, our Lord, tells them, you give them something to eat. It is impossible for us to respond in silence. But then, after a while, they said, we have a boy with 5 loaves and 2 fish, but what is it for so many? We know what happened thereafter. Something similar, if not exactly the same, is a situation brought about this pandemic COVID-19. The invisible hand of our God accomplished through you, CHAI members and other healthcare providers, for the healing, comfort and consolation of all those victims affected in such a variety of ways. I feel compelled to mention for the name of Father George Kanandana, the CHAI board secretary, and his team of collaborators. What an extraordinary contribution he and his team made. That is what 5 loaves and 2 fish multiplied again and again. There is no other better teacher than experience as we look forward to the future. I'm sure we have learned and we continue to learn many things from this pandemic COVID-19. We look to the future. I suggest with the changed perspectives and attitudes. Do not panic. Do not become victims of your fears and apprehensions, even though there are enough reasons for worry and anxiety. These fears can make us cold, indifferent towards the suffering and the needy humanity. God will not ask of us what is not possible. He will certainly keep knocking at our doors saying, do you really think you cannot do anything? Therefore, we have to get reorganized, reorder the available resources, human as well material. We cannot say we never did that way in the past. Precisely for that we have to be creative and flexible, because COVID-19 corona pandemic does not happen so often. As we created space for COVID-19 pandemic so far, we should be able to create space, generate and allocate resources. Let us try to get others to share your plans and get them involved for the good cause you are serving. Above all, do not forget, let's not forget, that the one who is calling you to this healing mission, our God and Savior Jesus Christ, the divine healer par excellence, will be there to see you through this mission. With these dispositions, let us look forward to the future. Our healing mission in this vast country is far from over. Besides the COVID-19 pandemic, healthcare is still among the priority services of the church in this part of the world. These words I have appealing to all of you to continue to go forward with confidence, with trust in the Lord and in the goodwill of people that can be mobilized, and do what we can with the good heart of mercy and compassion. Thank you, and once again I wish all the participants and organizers a fruitful day of this CHAI General Body Annual Meeting. God bless you.
Thank you, Your Grace, for your continued leadership and a true, with your encouraging words as the ecclesiastical advisor to CHAI. Thank you so much. The theme for the 77th CHAI Annual General Body Meeting is Responding to a Pandemic, Looking Back to See into the Future. CHAI has invited leaders from different organizations to share with you the challenges that they have faced during the time of this grave pandemic, and has invited them to share their experiences, how they have met these challenges, and what their plans are going forward into the near future. Reverend Father Paul Varghese Munyali is the present Executive Director of Caritas India. Father Paul has an MBA and an MSW in Medical and Psychiatric Social Work. He is a PhD scholar in Health Policy and Advocacy. He has been the President of the Catholic Hospital Association of Kerala, the Director of Lizzie Medical and Educational Institutions Kerala, the Founder Director of Planet Kerala, Wesco Credit, and a member of the Country Coordination Mechanism of GFATM and the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Under his leadership, Caritas was recently awarded the Health Giri Award by the India Today Group. Congratulations to Caritas on that. I now invite Father Paul to share his experience during the COVID pandemic, the challenges that he has faced as the head of this institution, and the plans for the near future going forward. Over to you, Father Paul.
Thank you, Anu, for pronouncing my name correctly. Good morning, Your Eminence, Cardinal Oswald Gracious, Your Grace Archbishop Prakash Mallavarapu, Sister Victoria, President of CHAI, and Father Matthew, Director General, dear panelists, my dear brothers and sisters. Cardinal Oswald, our President, has really set the tone for the day with a beautiful message. And I would like to specially remember him and appreciate and congratulate him being the President and who led us from front in these very difficult times. And if at all we have some credits today, I think he's the one who deserves it for being very, very active at every point of time during the past months. So he deserves a kind of big applause from all of us here who is leading the church today, the Indian church. Thank you, Your Eminence. And maybe I start this little conversation paying our solidarity to Father Stan Swami, who is being arrested and who is a brother, elder brother of ours, who has really shown the way for us. And let us pray for him as we all come together as a fraternity. Anu, can you share my presentation?
It is on the screen, Father.
Okay, yeah. Friends, I would like to just begin with that video clip, a small one, the award ceremony by India Today Group And that is the credit that goes to each and every one of you, the health warriors, our frontline leaders, volunteers, and so on. I know it's, can you play that? Okay.
Offering healthcare services during COVID-19. इसमें विनर है कैरिटास इंडिया अवार्ड रिसिपिएंट फादर पॉल मुंजली, एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर कैरिटास इंडिया। बहुत बहुत आपको बधाई कैरिटास इंडिया एंड फादर पॉल।
Congratulations, Father Paul. Would you briefly want to talk to us about your work?
Thank you for the award. Caritas India is the national organization for humanitarian response under the aegis of Catholic Church in India. We are honored and humbled by this award on this beautiful day of Gandhi Jayanti. Thank you for this Healthgiri Award. I dedicate this award to our health warriors and volunteers, both at the community and institutional levels. Our medical colleges, tertiary hospitals, and community workers did a commendable job in reaching out to the peripheries and serving the poor, all out of love and humanitarian concern. Because we believe that Manava Seva is Madhava Seva. We pitched in with the 5-point strategic orientations: be trained, be informed, be cautioned, and be compassionate. We reached out to almost 64 lakh people through our partner networks. And we serve the community, the institutions, the first level treatment centers, the COVID warriors, and the government institutions, including the police force. And we are happy for this award, and we rededicate ourselves to the continued commitment and service for humanity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What a noble cause.
As I said, I dedicate this award to every one of you. It's needed as a collective fraternity. We are ever grateful to our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, as his eminence already recalled, that we had the opportunity to have a one-to-one video conference with His Excellency Narendra Modi, and he invited us to be part of this response. And today, when we look back, we have done our job, and thanks to all your support. And we were always led by our church leadership. When we confronted with this challenge, we had immediate kind of gathering of the church leadership, and under the leadership of Cardinal Oswald, we could come out with a different strategy altogether to respond to this pandemic situation. And we came up with a kind of 6-pointed strategy: be informed, be trained, be cautious, be connected, be compassionate, and be courageous. As Pope Francis would tell us in his beautiful letter, The Life After the Pandemic, this courageous innovation was the way. And it was the solution that helped us to move forward with this, in this very challenging situation. I would request you to move ahead with the slides, since we don't have much time. So in all these 6 strategic orientations, we had a lot of activities centered around, with all our 174 diocesan partners, with all the 14 forums, with all the Caritas team, and all our volunteers who are called the Caritas Samaritans, who are being fielded in all the parts of the country. So that was one of the beautiful experience, and one of the largest lessons that we learned in this pandemic time. When we look into the partnership, we had a solidarity support wherein we supported with 146 dioceses, the 101 programs, and we had our traditional donor partners supporting us with as many as 20 major programs. Then we had another program supported by from the CSR fraternity, again another 20 major programs. So This was a partnership that we had in the country during the pandemic time. And friends, shall we move forward with the slide? Next one, please. Next one. Next one. Maybe before there is a slide, please. Yeah, this is a little bit of infographics. It gives us a slide data of response nationally. We reached out to collectively with almost 22 million people, and we're in 55,90,000 marks. We had already distributed collectively 8,68,000 sanitizers. 1 lakh plus volunteers were engaged. We reached out to almost 14 lakh migrant population. And another important dimension we added in this COVID challenging time was reaching out to people with distress, almost 7.5 lakh people. And of course, people were supplied with dry ration kits, and people were also fed with cooked food, and almost 31 lakh people were fed in this particular situation. We will move on to the next slide. And in doing that, this was done with a collective effort, thanks to the great support of the partnership of CRI as well, Conference of Religious of India as well. Next slide, please.
When disaster strikes, we can't always get out of the way in time. If we're lucky, we survive and our physical injuries are patched up. But what about our psychological injuries? After a disaster, we might feel confused, overwhelmed, anxious, and have no idea where to turn for help or how to even start.
We realized that feelings as such have always existed in our society when we try to overcome the stigma of mental health. COVID-19 hits us all with a larger reality of this feeling.
You know that feeling where your thoughts scare you or make life tough? Sometimes it feels like no one else in the world has those thoughts or feelings. No one seems to know how difficult it is to deal with your feelings. And it's not easy to share your deepest secrets. You might think something is wrong with you. Or you might worry what other people think. And all of that makes your thoughts and feelings worse.
Are you well? Really? We found a solution in the new normal. The truth is, each of us has the power to change our culture. Will you join us? Be Calm, Caritas Action Leading to Mental Health. A desk that would address your concerns just one call away. Call us on our own toll-free number 844-844-8012.
Friends, this is another important challenge that we face and we have been confronting in all our communities, children, women, and all people in all very distressed situations. And this is the challenge and this is the solution. We are coming with a national program which is already launched on our foundation day, October 1st. Caritas Action Leading to Mental Health, Be Calm. It's being done through volunteers, trained counselors who are volunteers in all parts of the country, who are fielding volunteers in all the states who can reach out to the people with their vernacular languages. So I think we can, if my time is over, I can stop me any point of time, no hurry. I mean, I'm not worried. And there are many more things to say. All things that is being heard is sweet, and what is more to be heard is sweeter. And I know that I have taken my time, and there are other slides. We don't want to stay with those slides. There are many others to speak. Thank you for this opportunity. And we are still living with the pandemic, this corona pandemic. It is, somebody said that pandemic, this corona is like a wife. First we start controlling it, then we start learning to live with it. So with that note, I conclude my salutations to all the health warriors who are actively involved. God bless each one of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Father Paul. for your very illuminating talk, and also congratulations to Caritas for the work that you've done and the award that you've won. Thank you so much. We'll move on now. Father Joe Mannath is no stranger to this gathering. As you all are aware, he is the National Secretary of CRI. Father Joe has an MA and PhD from Rome. He's done his research at Oxford University. He's a postdoctoral visiting scholar at Harvard University and Boston College. He is a visiting professor at in various countries, including Spain, Thailand, and United Kingdom. He is the president of the Association of Christian Philosophers of India and Salesian Psychological Association. He's the editor of Magnet magazine. I now invite Father Joe to share his experience over the past few months, how he's managed to overcome the challenges he has faced as a leader, and what his plans are for his organizations in the near future. Over to Father Joe.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, Father Joe.
Okay, that's my PowerPoint. Thank you. Since time is the most precious thing, I prefer to leave out the formal salutations which we are used to in church circles and come to the point. See, the CRI. Okay, you can go to the next slide. So the three questions I was given is, what are the three major challenges, responses, and the new normal? Okay, you want me to speak louder? Is it possible to increase the volume of the mic? Okay. Now, I want to say this from the beginning. The Catholic group here will be familiar with this. Those of other churches may not be. So the CRI, it's not about what CRI is doing. That is this blanket organization, whether it is CRI or CHAI. We are not the ones doing the work. It is most of what we say the Catholic Church is doing, very frankly, as done by the members of Catholic religious orders. That's the selectors, trainers, and we are full-time committed to that. It's not CRI or it's not put down CHAI. For example, Father Matthew is a religious redemptorist. I am a Salesian, Don Bosco Father. The CRI is this fraternal association of some 500 Catholic religious orders working in India. And it has got about 162,000 full-time members, sisters, brothers, fathers, with vows of poverty, celibacy, and obedience. As a network of this type, it's the largest in the world and one of the youngest. Engaged in education, medical work, leprosy, social services, every type. So when we say the church does, it's not an office called CRI doing it. For example, the medical work. It's the sisters particularly present in the villages who are saying to this, and each of them is trained by their religious order. So I want to say this. I do not know which, could you go to the previous slide? Okay. Okay, fine. So, no, can you stick with the previous? I just want to see one more. See, 100 years ago, when the Spanish flu hit, someone who went to study what happened found this report in the New York Times, by no means a Catholic publication. It said about the Catholic sisters' involvement to look after the sick, struck by the Spanish flu. The newspaper said, quoting the mayor of Philadelphia, "I have never seen a greater demonstration of real charity of self-sacrifice than has been given by the sisters in their nursing of the sick, irrespective of the creed or color of the victims, wherever the nuns were sent." Just one more short quote, again from the same period, 100 years ago. "The sisters' quiet, determined selflessness is what is needed now, and what we will need more of in the weeks and months to come." That was written 100 years ago during the Spanish flu. Because especially the medical field, CHAI is organizing this, is mostly done in the Catholic Church by nuns. Very few priests and brothers are involved in that. So hats off to the nuns. Of the 162 full-time religious in India, over 100,000 are sisters. Medical field there. Okay, challenges, you can go to the next slide. Right now, the new challenges are these. In education, because most of us are present in education, schools, colleges, the digital divide, that is, the stock of online classes, etc., are possible in the cities with good net connection and where the kids have got the gadgets available. Villages, neither the connection nor the gadgets. Two, so the schools in villages don't get money since the parents don't have work, so they are unable to pay the teachers. See, while I respect the psychological need for counseling in this, we must know the main problem caused by COVID is not psychological distress, but starvation. You and I are not facing starvation. So, but that is, more people may die of starvation than of the sickness. Three, students becoming workers. There are reports of students who are bright students now who are going to collect dirt and sell pieces of plastic to survive. And then questions and worries about the new educational policy. These are the main concerns in education. Next slide. About the medical, you know this field better than I do. For example, in India, the Indian Medical Association has said that 525 doctors have died and the government doesn't seem to be even. Now, COVID is spreading to the rural areas, you know this better than I do, where there is lack of personnel and facilities. Then, as some sisters working in villages told me, more deaths from other diseases, since people are not going with TB and other things to the hospitals now. More are dying of those diseases than before. And spread in the rural areas. Medical, anyhow, medical I need not explain, you know better. In general, as church people, we are used and trained for direct ministry, to work with people directly and not online. So this is a new untested field for us. And some poor, for example, poor groups, example, Mother Teresa sisters, they are used directly to care physically for this abandoned children of this. This cannot be done online. That's why a number of their communities, a number of their recipients and sisters got COVID, because they are physically, you cannot keep distance and all that and do that kind of work. But wherever they have fallen sick, I'm happy to say they have got well. Then the third thing is the new FCRI, which hits at NGOs directly. Again, this, you know, I need not explain it. Yeah, next slide. The responses. Yeah, next slide. Next slide. Okay. This, without any doubt, the response of the Catholic religions of India is fast, immediate, continuing, and effective. I cannot emphasize this. Catholic religions are not used to looking for publicity or sending reports. No, it's the opposite of corporates and governments. People do, they don't write reports about it. Since I asked for reports, I got over 750 reports. Millions of people are being helped. Just one religious order, not to avoid comparisons, I don't mention which, have reached over 1 million people. This is extraordinary. This is far more, I repeat again and again, than any reports. Huge numbers are being reached through the Catholic religious network. There are about 19,000 Catholic religious institutions, means run by religious in India. So the people being reached and being helped is incredibly big. And it doesn't come in a report. They don't send reports, newspapers. They don't wait for TV or papers. They do carry on with the quiet work as it should be. Okay, next slide. They put college and school buildings for quarantine, provided provision. This is going on. Cooked meals, making masks and giving it free, money, volunteers. Lots of, when we in dioceses, religious are among the first to volunteer to be close to these people and to work. Okay, third slide. There are heroic examples. I like to quote one. The collector of Srikakulam, Telangana, pleaded with the Mother Teresa sisters, please, can you send some volunteers to work with COVID positive patients in ICU, because even the nurses are scared. Now, most of those nuns are not trained nurses, but when the provincial, that means the local superior asked, 41 of them volunteered. And in shifts of 4, they are working there. And in the ICU, the deaths have come down. And people are getting better much faster. I mean, I find this extraordinary that so many have volunteered to work with the COVID positive patients in the ICU. Now, for me, this is the best thing of Catholic religious life. It's not about the big buildings and schools we see in cities. And whether it is this or running leprosaria, most of the leprosaria in India, frankly, are run by Catholic sisters. Hats off to our sisters. Next slide.
Father Joe, may I ask you to wind up, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay. The church and religious life are at our best in types of suffering. Father Damien, Spanish flu. Okay. Next slide. So the two or three traits of the new normal will be a simpler lifestyle closer to the poor. One thing I'm proposing to superiors is, with our 19,000 institutions, we could provide 1 million meals a day to the poor. I don't have time to explain it. Avoid lavish celebrations, unnecessary constructions and travel. Okay, next slide. The church is a more inclusive church without clerical privilege. That is bishops, priests, and superiors, not as above the laity, but all together working and doing service. Okay. Because there are a lot of very committed, qualified lay people today than before. 3, greater mutual support among us within the church and churches in India. We need this, including for finances. The foreign sources will dry up sooner than we think. We need to help each other more here in India. Next slide. Depend more on local and foreign, as I said, and look for many people helping in small ways than huge foreign organizations giving us big funds. We need to move in this direction. Next slide. And do more work and ministry online. For this, we need training, just like this meeting right now. Next slide. And I conclude, our call is, in a world of fear, divisions, and pain, to be agents of hope, unity, and healing. And the last slide. Fratelli Tutti, the Pope's call to create a world of universal brotherhood and sisterhood, and to reach out to the most deprived by preference, the poorest by preference. For we are all in the same storm, but we are not all in the same boat. So to reach out to those who are in the poorest boats facing the same storm. I think that's what the church is called to be, and that's where religious are at their best. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Joe. You have lots to say, and I'm sure we will have another chance to get to hear you detail out your plans for the future. Thank you so much. We now move on to Sister Dr. Beena Mandvat, UMI, who is the President of the Sister Doctor Forum of India. As an MBBS and MS degree in obstetrics and gynecology from St. John's Medical College, Bangalore, and a diploma in laparoscopy surgery from Kiel University, Germany, Sister Dr. Beena is currently working at the Holy Family Hospital, Bandra, Mumbai, as a consultant gynecologist. Despite her very busy schedule, she renders free service at the Navjeet Community Health Center and the Urban Community Development Center. I now invite Sister Dr. Beena to address the members of CHAI present here today.
Good morning to one and all, and thank you, Anivinda, for your kind words of introduction. Your Eminence, Oswald Cardinal Gracious, Your Grace Archbishop Prakash Malavarapu, Reverend Sister Victoria, Reverend Dr. Matthew, all the dignitaries on the virtual dais, and all participants. It's my privilege to be part of this 77th CHAI AGBM on this virtual platform. Yes, all of us are going through a very challenging time, experiencing one of the worst episodes in the human history. COVID-19 has generated an atmosphere of uncertainty all over the world. For us sister doctors, it has been a journey filled with uncertainty, challenges, and fears. It also gave us a moment of grace, hope, opportunity, and possibilities. In short, managing this new disease caused a lot of administrative hurdles clinical dilemmas, operational challenges, and financial constraints. We were asked to divide our talk into 3 challenges and our response and the way forward. I think one of the most major challenge which all of us faced in our healthcare setup was resource constraint. We experienced scarcity of material, manpower, and money. For us in healthcare sector, it was almost a mission impossible to manage this pandemic crisis, given the Indian socio-economic context, fragile healthcare infrastructure, fragmented medical supply chain, and acute shortage of trained medical personnel. At one point of time, we had scarcity of personal protective equipment, N95 masks, and sanitizers. And later on, we had acute scarcity of essential drugs like hydroxychloroquine, HCQ, remdesivir, tocilizumab, and it actually hampered the patient care. Even today, it's a painful reality that we have to turn down and refuse admission to critically ill patients and sometimes even for stable patients due to non-availability of intensive care beds and ordinary oxygen beds. Looking at the manpower shortage of trained medical professionals, inadequate infrastructure, and non-availability of modern medical facility has been an obstacle to deliver quality care in many of our member institutions from time immemorial. And it has become worse today, especially where the sister doctors are working in the rural villages and tribal belts of our country. It has become very difficult to deliver quality care, especially in the context of COVID-19. Besides this, few of our caregivers, sister doctors and sister nurses, contracted the illness, which further worsened the situation. Some of our institutions, especially run by sister doctors, single sister doctors, had to be shut down for a few days and months because the sister doctor herself was sick. Financial constraints. Ever since we began this management of COVID-19, we have been incurring substantial new unplanned cost. The situation brought about by coronavirus, such as personal protective equipment, sanitizers, fogging, and other agents have increased the operational cost. At the same time, there was a revenue loss up to 70% in few hospitals due to decreased number of OPD patients, cancellation of elective procedures, chemotherapy, and because of reduced number of diagnostic procedures. So all this is a major cause of concern because I know some of our institutions, the smaller institutions, are finding it difficult to manage and even to pay their own employees' salary. And today all of us know that disease is spreading from cities to the periphery. So more and more institutions are gearing up to manage this disease within their capacity. The Sister Doctors Forum of India is ever grateful to CHAI for collaborating with us. We had two fruitful collaborations, St. John's Medical College Alumni Association and CHAI. The most important was the collaboration with CHAI. They actually helped us a lot in these difficult times. Especially, I need to mention the CHAI helped us, which many sister doctors received help to prepare the MOUs whenever they had to collaborate with government, the standard operative procedures, the infection control policies and treatment protocols to manage this new disease. The CHAI helped us. Besides this, the CHAI Medical Learning Hub was a platform which assisted the sister doctors to update ourselves even when travel restrictions were imposed on us. I'm also grateful to CHAI for giving us an opportunity to complete a certificate course on COVID-19 from University of Melbourne, which was very, very useful for all of us. The second challenge, major challenge, which I perceive is the work-life imbalance, which the COVID-19 has brought to the sister doctors, sister nurses, and others involved in healthcare. The healthcare workers at the forefront of war against coronavirus are not only facing the task of handling the patients, but also are fighting to keep their own emotional stress and mental worries at bay. They're enduring extreme work conditions. I do not want to explain it, and their sacrifices, even risking their own life, is commendable. With this, most of the healthcare workers today are experiencing compassion fatigue, emotional burnout, mental stress, and even post-traumatic stress disorder. I myself have experienced to a certain extent, and today I feel it's very important to strike a work-life balance. In our hospital, from the beginning, we had appointed a professional counselor to deal with the fear and stress factor of our nurses and doctors. We also need to strike a balance in our religious communities to have that balance in inner life, our ministry, and community life. We need to have certain flexibility in our community timetable. And besides this, we need to have or invest in self-care to continue and to have a sustainable leadership. Having said the challenges, I would like also to share that the COVID-19 has given us opportunities. It was also a moment of grace and possibilities to reach out to the multi-layered community with accessible, affordable healthcare, especially to the people in the margins of our society. When I think of the way forward, at this point of time, none of us are very sure how this pandemic is going to end. Maybe this one fine day, the pandemic may just end. And when, for us, most of us, 2020, it may remain as an event of 2020 in the history. Or COVID-19 can be an era like Spanish flu, wherein it may last for a few years and have a natural end. The third probability may be the COVID-19 can remain as an endemic disease like malaria or tuberculosis in India and certain other parts of the world, wherein we need to learn how to live with it, and that may be going to be the new normal. So we are uncertain about it. So in this uncertainty, what we need to do is we need to adapt and rise, especially even today when there are cases, number of cases are increasing. We need to plan how to combat COVID-19 with systematic resilience. We need to move on from crisis to care. In this regard, within 6 to 8 months, we have become so much accustomed to Zoom meetings and teleconsultation and telehealth and tele-CMS. And first time we are having the CHAI AGBM on an online platform. So I think that is the way forward in healthcare, especially. We need to make use of like the digitalization, the IT technology, artificial intelligence, and robotics, and that may be going to be the new normal in the post-pandemic period. We also need to strengthen our collaboration within the organization, within the CHAI network, and outside the CHAI network, because we do not know what exactly will be the post-COVID era. So once again, I would like to give my best wishes and prayers to CHAI, and I would like to thank Sister Victoria and Father Matthew for all your initiatives, especially for sister doctors. It was a great help for us because all of us sister doctors are very busy working in hospitals. So organizing various events from your end helped us a lot. Once again, thank you and best wishes.
Thank you, Sister Bina, for your presentation. We have really learned a lot from it. And also looking into the future and using technology is very interesting, and I'm sure we will look forward to that. Thank you so much. Reverend Father George Kanandanam is the present Secretary of CHAI. He has spent the last 25 years in the service to society. He founded the Hope Society in 1988 to work with alcoholics and drug addicts. He has lived with leprosy-affected persons for 12 years. He received the Mother Award for Selfless Service in 2012 and the Best Citizen of Bangalore Award in 2013. Father George has shared so much of his work with us on the CHAI WhatsApp group. Today, he will share with us the challenges he faced, the solutions he devised to face those challenges, and his plans going forward in the light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Over to you, Father George.
Thank you and good morning, everybody. I get up one morning and find myself jobless, moneyless, and friendless. This is what COVID challenges brought to us. Jobless because we couldn't do any work, we couldn't travel, no meetings, and so there was no job. Moneyless because whatever activities were engaged were blocked, and so there was no money. And friendless because we couldn't have our usual meetings of the colleagues, our friends, as well as our work partners. So these are the three challenges that I felt in the last few months. Well, coming to the responses, we as an organization have been engaged with various disaster management programs, right from tsunami to Nepal earthquake to Kerala floods. And so we treated COVID as another disaster. So we knew that we had to respond immediately to the situation. So right in the beginning, in January itself, when we came to understand about the shortage of masks in China, we collaborated with our clinician partners there and physically took 10,000 masks from Bangalore and traveled all the way to China to make it available to the people in need. So what we started in a small way, later on we could also reach masks to US, to Spain, to Italy, to Philippines, and various other countries. And so that was one of the first responses what we had. We started in January itself. In February, by the time we came to understand that this is going to be affecting large number of people, we launched a program called coronacare.live, because we knew that people are going to be panicky and they wouldn't be able to go to a hospital. So we thought the best way would be to make available facilities online for people to consult a professional and a doctor. And therefore, along with our various collaborators in CHAI, in the Doctors Nurses Forum, the Nurses Guild, we identified about 30 counselors and doctors across India. And later on, we expanded that program to various countries and into various languages. So within about 2 months' time, we had about 50 doctors from across the world and about 20 world languages. We had the facilities open with us. So this was able to provide consultation facilities for a lot of people who couldn't physically go to the hospital. So that was our second initiative. The third initiative was when the lockdown started in India from March onwards. The week after the lockdown started, we understood that large number of people are going to be in starvation. People don't have job, no money. So how do they survive? The daily workers were the most affected. So we started what we call as Corona Care Bangalore, along with other partner organizations. And then we were able to reach out to about 25,000 families so far. So we provided them what we call the survival kits. When the whole city was under lockdown, we were traveling in our ambulance and ensuring that food is there in the houses. And we focused on the families with disabilities, families with widows, families with people with terminal illnesses, and the families that lost job. So this was the third initiative what we were able to take up. And the last of our initiative, what we launched, the latest, is called the Mother's Meal. We understood that one time giving a kit will not be enough. We looked at a sustained support for the families because people have lost jobs and they have no money to survive. So we thought they should be supported for about 6 months to 1 year time. And that's how we launched this program called Mother's Meal, which would be reaching out to the same groups of people, what I said earlier, but not limited to Bangalore. We started on a pan-India program where from every state of the country, through the grassroots level organizations, some of them also CHAI partners, we were able to develop a national program. Now we reach out to about 3,000 families now in various places, and they will be supported for about 1 year time. We have also launched this program now in Macau, in China. We have started this program in Nepal. And this month, we also will be launching this program in Uganda. And our target is that we should be able to provide food for about 1 million people in the next few months' time every day. So that is the target which we are working, and we are very happy. A lot of partners are coming forward to be part of this work. Well, coming to the new normal. First thing is that our traditional engagement in the community may not be possible anymore. It may not be possible to visit the communities and engage directly in our social development activities. So we need to find out alternative ways of engaging the community and work. So that is the first challenge that we are faced with. Second, as already been mentioned here, is digital life becoming the new normal. But here the problem is, how do we empower the marginalized sections, the illiterate groups in the country, to really become digital trained and enable them to use it, because everything is happening digitally. So we as community workers need to find ways to reach technology to the community. That's the second challenge. The third normal is, well, in the past few decades of work, we had taken development to a certain level. And the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations came out with areas of development up to 2030. And the whole idea was that we would be able to limit the peripheries. But we know that the COVID has expanded the peripheries to a great level. According to one study from the UN, about 500 million people are going to be actually joining the peripheries. And one of the studies from Oxfam says that about 12,000 people might die every day because of COVID. So we are all forced to go back to the basics of social work, where the food, medicine, and the basic needs like shelter has to be the new focus in our work. And as Father Joe was mentioning here, we thought starvation is not a problem anymore, but well, starvation is going to be the new great challenge for us. So the invitation, I think, for us as social workers, community leaders, and development organizations, and as religious leaders committed for people, the challenge for us is, how do we multiply the resources that we have to help these basic needs of the people? Should our focus be now more on ensuring that whatever resources we have and we're able to mobilize will be put to the use of the people in the peripheries? That is a great challenge that we could have. So food, job, education, housing, All progress what we have made so far is going to be lost with this pandemic, and we need to find alternative ways of getting back to them. So reducing the peripheries will be the great challenge actually for us. So in conclusion, I think Pope Francis has given us the way forward. Fratelli Tutti has told us that, well, let us look at the whole world as one family. We are all brothers. We are all sisters. So this new brotherhood has to be the new normal. So our role will be to promote this brotherhood. This feeling of solidarity, if we can spread and get more and more people to be part of this work, well, our work will be done. This cannot be done by ourselves. We need to have a much larger base of people working on this. The simple concept of Mother's Meal is that family to family support. When 10% of people are suffering, 50% of families are able to help them. Can we motivate, inspire this 50% to reach out this 10% in need? If we can engage one family to help another family in the world, well, starvation can be dealt with. So can brotherhood be achieved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father George, for all the work that you're doing. It's really encouraging to see the work that you've done, and I think Bishop Mallavarapu's allusion to the two fish and the loaves of bread, I think stands true even today. So thank you very much. I now call upon Dr. Priya John, who is the General Secretary of the Christian Medical Association of India. She did her MBBS from CMC Vellore and her MD in Community Health from St. John's Medical College, Bangalore, two prestigious medical colleges of our country. She has also done her DNB. She has been the assistant professor in PSGIMSR, Coimbatore. She is the senior program coordinator. She was the senior program coordinator in Community Health Department of CMAI before she became the General Secretary of CMAI. I now request Dr. Priya John to address this august gathering and share her thoughts on the theme, responding to a pandemic, looking back to look forward. Over to you, Priya.
Thank you very much, and good morning to each of the dignitaries on the dais, respected chairperson, and Reverend, Dr. Matthew, and to all the dignitaries present here at the general body of the CHAI, also to our dear participants and members of the general body of the Christian Catholic Health Association of India. Thank you for this opportunity to share a few thoughts. Thank you for giving us a space, as Father George mentioned, in the light of the brotherhood and to work together. It is a time where we need to look at each other's strengths and put it together and make a bigger and much bigger impact and a difference. So I represent the Christian Medical Association of India. We are an organization, we are a membership. So the challenges that we face are in two different channels, so to speak. As for those who don't know CMAI, we are a membership of Christian healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, allied health professionals, administrators, as well as chaplains. We have been in existence since 1905. We have about 273 mission hospitals as our membership as of today, as institutions. It is definitely a huge area of need that we cater to through our membership, especially those working in remote areas, in those working in resource-constrained areas, as well as challenging areas. And this is the commonality we have with CHAI I see, the number of participants here, I realize how far and wide you are spread in the smallest, most remotest parts of our country, just quietly serving. And I really salute each one of the sister doctors here, the nurses here, all who are contributing to healthcare of our country, especially in the remote areas. I have been given 3 questions to answer, and I will stick to those 3 questions. The first question, in responding to a pandemic, looking back to see the future, is what are the 3 challenges that you faced as head of your institution over the past few months? So to answer that question, to break it down to 3 is difficult, but I will stick to the 3. First is the challenge of us as CMAI as an organization. We work in our headquarters from Delhi. So what did we face? Suddenly we were asked to go into lockdown. So it became a new way of working. That was the challenge. It became remote conducting of activities. The staff and finance had to be transitioned into online processes overnight. Second challenge was the staff engagement and motivation. The third was continuation of project-related field activities as well as ongoing programs, including the constitutional ones which we as CMA need to do. So this was the challenges that we faced as an organization. As a membership, what were the challenges that we faced? First was keeping the connect and trying to provide whatever little support we could. Second was keeping the members updated and about the progression of the COVID-19 and its emerging challenges. The third was, like others, my respected speakers have already said before me, the human resource, preparedness for COVID-19 itself, expectations from the government, the sudden acute drop in income, and the safety of the staff. So this in a package with the challenges that we faced. So how did we respond? The second question is, what was your response to these challenges? As an organization, immediately we got in our admin software where we were able to have systems in place from a remote setting. So we were able to punch in our attendance from wherever we were, whether at home or whether in the field. Second, we were able to quickly have all our finances and administrative systems as online approvals and payments. Third is we brought in Microsoft 365, which is a very good tool for online monitoring and supervision of all the staff as well as communication. We quickly got on to regular Zoom online devotion starting at 9 o'clock every morning. Department meetings were held regularly as well as our management committee meetings conducted every month. We also were able to do our constitutional activities of the annual general body meeting which we had in August. We then, through our network partners, because this was important to come together through the Christian Coalition for Health, headed by Ms. Anuvinda Varki, and the presidentship of Father Matthew, myself as the vice president, we were able to sign a letter communicating with the Prime Minister our solidarity as a Christian coalition in the field of healthcare delivery. Over the last few months, we were able to meet online, face-to-face, I would like to say face-to-face, with our member institutions. So we met about 169 of them, over 40 meetings, just to ask them how they were doing, what they were doing, and what we could do to accompany them on this very important journey that they were taking. So we started with a network of partners, not just CMA meeting them, but with CCH, with EMFI, with the Center for Bioethics, and other institutions which could contribute to their challenges. We met, and we met about 169 of them. What did we do? We helped them connect with the local government. We gave them MOUs. I'm sure that was with help of CHAI. We supplied PPE to over 90 of our institutions during that very crucial period of the lockdown. We helped and facilitated webinars just to keep their knowledge updated, and the workshops. In case there was a registration to be paid, we took on that payment. Our hospitals, despite what they were going through, and our churches, because all our hospitals are affiliated to churches, the churches as well as the hospitals, like we have heard before from our respected speakers, all of them reached out to the community to help them even when they themselves did not have enough resources. So that was the main response I would like to highlight for the how we took the challenges forward. In coming to the third question and the last question, what is the new normal going to be over the next 1 year? I think over the last few months, our member institutions have shown and demonstrated exceptional leadership during this phase. And I must thank some of our advisors who helped me think through what are these leadership skills that have been demonstrated through this period of lockdown and this ongoing pandemic. The first one was leadership and management processes that work and work well in a broken environment. When you have a government system that is broken, when you have partnerships that are suddenly broken, when you have communications that are broken, when you have knowledge that is changing every day, how does a leadership and a management process work and work well in that broken environment? Each of our member institutions have demonstrated that leadership during this time. They sought their strength within. They looked at partnerships outside. And again, I agree with our previous speakers where they looked at how we must look at working together and not in silos anymore. So working together in a broken environment, that was the first leadership challenge which was demonstrated. Because throughout the lockdown, it was only our member institutions, the Christian network, which was open alongside the government. Many of the private corporates had closed. And this was a witness and a testimony to our commitment to serving the community that we are called to serve. Second new normal was leadership reaching within and without for solutions. During that time of preparedness, no one sat quietly. Everybody was innovating how to make new PPEs, how to make new sanitizing solutions, how to get their protocols in place, how to get their systems in place. Everything was buzzing with activity throughout that time of lockdown. And they all realized that working together was the solution. But in that working together, reaching within and without, they first reached upward because they continued their devotions. And even if one patient came to the OPD, they would have a devotion for them. So for them, reaching upward, looking for strength upward, and then spreading that strength and their expertise and their support to their staff as well as to the community was the second. The third was how you will build in resilience and adaptability to ongoing changes. And I know Sister Dr. Beena has already talked about this, but in our experience, the new normal will be new models for communication. We can call it tech, bringing in technology, the telehealth, the tele-education, the telemedicine, all those AI. But the first thing that worked was when the management of the hospital communicated in a very honest and transparent way with their own staff first. Those models proved to have much better acceptance of this new normal. They had more motivated staff. They had staff who wanted to perform and give 120% to what the challenges they were facing. So communication still is important from management to staff first, and then we can reach out to other modes of communication and keeping those channels going, whether it's technology that we reach out to or just a way to keep our engagement with those who matter the most. Relationships within the institution mattered when you talk about resilience and adaptability. Next was the mobilizing of resources within for manpower. We looked within for new skills. Lab technicians became tailors to stitch PPE. There were new ways of carpentry to look at dispensing of sterilizing fluids. And there were so many new innovations that came up during this lockdown. So skills were looked at within and also without. Knowledge, expertise, and funds. All this we had to look together and look at CSR, look at the government, look at other donors. But yes, in the given environment of these new laws that are coming, especially with relation to FCRA, looking within for our own strengths and our own funding is going to become the new normal. And of course, the last and the most important is government partnership and strengthening our relationship with the government in all areas, whether it is in education in health, whether it is in insurance in health, or whether it is just strengthening the existing government systems and protocols. I think these will be the new normal going forward. Sister Dr. Beena very concisely put together what the probability of this COVID is going to be. But whatever it is going to be, the herd immunity or the pandemic dying in its own death, or the vaccines coming out, whatever it is, the resilience and the communication within ourselves is going to really play the major role. And I'm really strengthened by our commitment, and I hear the commitment from all the CHAI network partners too, and it is very encouraging. And I know the new normal is going to be one which is going to be a beautiful one, not just because of our own strengths coming out to the front, but because we're going to serve the community with a regained strength and resilience. So thank you once again for this time of sharing, and I hand it over back to Ms. Anand.
Thank you, Dr. Priya, for your insights and the way forward, with communication being one of the most important issues that we need to keep in mind going forward. Thank you so much for your talk. I now call upon Father Paul Parataram, the Director of St. John's National Academy for Health Sciences. I'm sorry, we actually have Dr. Sarah Matthew, who is at present the Executive Director of Emmanuel Hospital Association based in Delhi. Dr. Sarah did her MBBS and her diploma in anesthesia. She's also done a fellowship in HIV medicine. She has been the Regional Director of EHA's Northern and Central Region, the Deputy Medical Director Operations and Administration at Duncan Hospital, Raxaul in Bihar, and the Project Director of Shalom, an EHA project for HIV and AIDS in New Delhi. I request Dr. Sarah Matthew to share her experience of leading the Emmanuel Hospital in this time of COVID, knowing fully well that she took over as Executive Director of EHA immediately after the lockdown was announced. So over to you, Dr. Sarah. You had very unique challenges going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Anuvinta, for that introduction. Good morning to all. And thank you, CHAI, for this opportunity for me to participate in your AGBM. Like Mrs. Anuvinta said, I came to Delhi to overlap with my previous director, and I got stuck. And suddenly I was thrown into a situation where I hadn't taken over the responsibility, but had to move back to a home with my friend because we hadn't found a house. So there were a lot of uncertainty, but God has been good. And suddenly realized that the office is shut, but we all adapted immediately to virtual meetings. We started off with our daily devotions. And this was in respect to the Delhi office. Just a brief about Emmanuel Hospital Association. We are a network of 19 hospitals, 6 nursing schools, and recently 2 laboratory schools were added. And we have many community health projects in various parts of North India. And we are a registered NGO, and the main office is in Delhi. And each of these incorporated hospital is a registered society in their respective states. Next slide, please. Many challenges were there. I have picked up few which I thought is important, and mostly pertaining to our hospitals in various locations. First one is the difficulties, the disruptions of hospital services, the schools, outreach programs. And this all contributed negatively to an already compromised healthcare system of our government. Due to the lockdown restrictions, patients were not able to access our services, affecting the ongoing treatment of chronic illnesses and other non-COVID ailments. Delay in them reaching the emergency services due to non-availability of transport, especially because most of our hospitals are located in remote areas. This led to increase in mortality and morbidity. Our schools of nursing and laboratory had to be shut down, and we could not complete the syllabus. And it was a traumatic experience for all the students. They were stuck in the hospital for many weeks and not able to meet anyone due to the lockdown restrictions. Next, please. The other problem was we couldn't continue the community health or palliative care programs. We couldn't visit the families, and palliative care patients had to miss their pain medication, which was very traumatic to see. And we were in a helpless situation where we were not able to go out to them. The second challenge was, I have divided it into COVID-related and non-COVID challenges with infrastructure, finances, human resources. Like many of you had earlier mentioned, we had very inadequate infrastructure. Many of our buildings were old and we couldn't do any renovation. We had difficulty in creating space for triage as well as isolation. We had inadequate facilities to start HDU or ICU. We did not have enough oxygen, mainly because of our remote location. We didn't have enough cylinders. We couldn't get oxygen on time, and the suppliers were not able to provide enough oxygen due to the increased demand. And the other issue was, if we used up all the oxygen what is available, then we were not in a position to take care of the emergency patients and cesarean section cases. PPE was the other issue. Initial days, we did not have PPE or nor the resources to buy PPE. So we innovated, we used, we didn't have resources to buy PPE. Other was regarding equipment. We did not have infrared thermometer, pulse oximeter, monitors, ventilators, if we had to start the HDU and ICU. Staff, human resources was the other issue. We were not trained. We had fear, and there was a lot of panic among our staff. And then suddenly we realized, because of the lockdown restriction, patients were not coming and our income dropped. We lost about 70% of our income, and we were not in a position to pay salaries nor buy the necessary PPE or even other supplies and the regular medication. And patients who were coming, the few patients who were trickling in, they were not able to pay for the services because they have lost their livelihood. Next slide, please. The other was the uncertainty in the whole situation. Government's decision was to engage the voluntary sector, but those decisions varied from one state to the other. And the protocols kept changing frequently, and lockdown, social distancing, and quarantine guidelines also kept changing. And training of the staff was another issue. And there were hospitals who were willing to take care of patients, but without testing facility, we could not move ahead. Resources were also not being provided by the government initially. Because the testing facility was not there, we had to refer patients, but patients were not wanting to go to a government setup because they knew what to expect there. Crowd control and social distancing norm in a rural setting was quite difficult. Even in urban setting that was difficult, but it was much worse in the rural setting. How did we respond to the challenges? The first and foremost was we resolved to keep all our services open. Our teams were willing to take the risk, whatever it may. and kept all the services open. And whichever patients came in, they continued to take care of them. Students were shifted to online classes, and communities immediately moved to establishing contact through telephone calls, WhatsApp, or other modes. We were not able to go to the community in providing relief material, but with the support of the local authorities, the families were able to come to our hospital premises and collect the food hampers. But in urban setting like Delhi and UP, we identified church volunteers and other local volunteers through whom we provided the food hampers. The places where we were not able to give food hampers, we transferred money to individuals' accounts so that they could avail the resources from the local shops. We developed resource materials for the communities, online and offline modules, and for the hospital staff, we used the available resources. One set of resources were provided by CHAI. Thank you for that. And we partnered with CMC Vellore. Then some materials were provided by CMAI. So we got into partnership with many organizations, which really helped. In the hospital setting, we immediately created triage area. Many of the places we didn't have a separate room to be allocated, but immediately we made temporary sheds near the gate or under a tree. In whatever way we could, we just provided care for them. We welcomed all those who came to our hospital. And after the triage, we referred patients or admitted them in isolation wards wherever possible, those who had acute respiratory infection. The serious cases, we referred them to the nearby facility for testing and treatment. A lot of innovation happened, and over a period of time, we were able to procure enough PPE and some amount of equipment. Partners joined hands with us in reaching out to this families in our community. They allowed us to repurpose the available funds for that particular quarter. And also we were able to raise funds for COVID care and also to meet the ongoing expenses like salary, purchase of other supply, medication, etc. And we had to defer payment of salaries and renters. We definitely looked at cost-cutting measures and also availed government schemes, whatever was possible. And few of the places we were able to follow up patients online. But the first hospital which was designated as a COVID care center was in Jharkhand, Navajivan Hospital, where the government set up the whole facility for treating patients, and government came with 3 positive patients along with the government team, and they supplied oxygen and whatever ventilator, whatever was required. That was a great experience. That set the tone for all other units where everybody was willing to create an isolation ward and take care of patients. So currently we have 3 hospitals which are COVID centers, and one is kept as a standby, and one of the hospital has a collection center for the samples for the testing. Various teams were put in place for the management of COVID. Patients and relatives were also trained. Our staff were trained and retrained, and we revised and re-revised protocols based on the situation. And we used the online resources which were available. And we formed a lot of partnerships with the government as well as other private agencies. And like Dr. Priya said, we developed a lot of support groups within the organization and outside of the organization, because we realized that we cannot manage on our own. And I think that was a great step we took. and which really helped us sustain during this period of uncertainty. Looking ahead with hope, that's all what I can say. There is still a lot of uncertainty how the pandemic is going to be, but we are continuing to look at new partnerships within India and also outside, looking at cross-cutting measures. We are looking at options for telehealth, home care, etc. And for community health also, we are looking at various approaches, including telecommunication and being available and responsive to the needs of the community. One fear I have regarding telecommunication is usually a touch to a patient or a community member makes a lot of difference. But will we lose that, especially when we are called to care? Will that all these online or virtual meetings distance us from the actual community we serve? That is one fear which I have. At the end, I would like to say, even though COVID posed many challenges, it opened up many opportunities. It was a learning platform personally for me as well as for my whole organization. We looked at alternate approaches to functioning, which was very good. One of the areas we struggled were putting in place control measures for infection, but this virus pushed us into following all those protocols for infection control. And I think we have succeeded in doing that. As a leader, many times I felt inadequate in providing advice or help to our institution because I was quite far away and my colleagues were struggling in various locations. But what kept me going was the assurance that God is sovereign, still in control, and He will continue to lead us. And the other learning was do what we can with the limited resources rather than waiting for more resources. Jump forward in faith and God will take care of the rest. Thank you once again for this opportunity to share my experience with you. Over to Anuvinda.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah, for your talk. I think jumping forward in faith is what everyone has that is listening has been doing. And thank you very much for your talk. We now come to Father Paul Paratharam, who is the director of St. John's National Academy of Health Sciences. He's a PhD in sociology from Loyola University, Chicago. Father Paul has been the director of Nirmala Center for Educational, Social and Theological Training, Kerala. He was a professor of sociology and the Dean Faculty of Philosophy, Jnanadeepa Vidyapeeth. I request Father Paul to share his thoughts with us today. Over to Father Paul.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Greetings from St. John's Medical College and Hospital. Thanks to CHAI for giving St. John's this opportunity to share with you the three major challenges posed by the COVID pandemic and how St. John's Medical Hospital, Bangalore has tried to cope with them. To put these challenges in perspective, I think it is necessary to give a quick overview of the COVID patient care in St. John's. The mission of St. John's Medical College and Hospital, to put it succinctly, is to serve the medically underserved. And we saw in the COVID patients a new category of the medically underserved. And when most of the private hospitals in the city were turning away COVID patients, some of them dying on the roads, St. John's Hospital reached out to COVID patients and admitted and cared for as many as possible right from the outset of the pandemic. till the 10th of October, St. John's has admitted and managed a total of 5,268 COVID patients, of which 3,438 or 65% were referred by the government. Yesterday's COVID bed occupancy in St. John's was 486. On an average, we have more than 500 COVID patients in our hospital. So far, 298 COVID patients have died in St. John's. May they rest in peace. The COVID care facilities set up in St. John's include a triage, a fever clinic, a segregated COVID emergency room, and 585 beds set apart for COVID patients, including 338 isolation beds, 165 ITU beds, and 82 ICU beds, of which 36 are ventilator beds. Most of these facilities for COVID care are located in the new St. John's COVID Care Hospital, which is set up in the 3 floors of the new hospital block now under construction. St. John's has so far tested 21,875 COVID suspects, of which 5,421 were positive. About 40% of these tests were RT-PCR tests, and the rest were rapid antigen tests. Among our staff, 65 doctors, 135 nurses, and 75 support staff have been tested positive so far for COVID infection. And 1 senior member of the support staff died of COVID infection. He was also an asthma patient. Coming to the challenges posed by COVID pandemic, as several have already underscored, the first and foremost challenge was ensuring adequate manpower for COVID patient management. COVID care required additional manpower, trained manpower, especially doctors and nurses. Reasons for shortage of manpower include initial reluctance of many doctors and nurses to take up COVID duties for fear of COVID infection, quarantine of a number of healthcare personnel because of COVID infection or primary contact with COVID patients, reduction of duty hours and duty days for doctors and nurses on COVID duty to help them de-stress, and inability of many staff who had gone to their home in other states to return to work because of travel restrictions. How did we address these challenges? Well, first was to co-opt doctors from all disciplines, medical, surgical, super specialty, pre and paraclinical disciplines for COVID duty on rotation, and then hiring additional staff, especially nursing staff. The second most serious challenge was and is ensuring financial sustainability of the hospital. After the onset of the pandemic, especially in the initial months, there was a steep decline in the number of non-COVID patients coming to the hospital. St. John's has an average of 2,500 patients daily, outpatients daily, and this came down to as low as 250. 10%. Cancellation of elective surgeries and procedures exacerbated the problem. As a result, there was a significant deficit in revenue, making it difficult to meet the day-to-day expenses and pay the salaries. The problem was compounded by the fact that there was long delay from the part of the government to clear the bills or the COVID patients sent by the government. Even now, we have unpaid bills of more than 2.5 crores pending with the government. How did we meet this financial challenge? Well, we had to dip into our emergency reserve funds and stop some of the development projects. We also deferred the payments of incentives to doctors and also invited the high earning categories of employees to donate a portion of their salary for the month of April to help the institution tide over the financial crisis. It is heartening to see that a large numbers volunteered to donate a portion of their salary. These especially from the low earning categories of employees to help us deal with the financial crisis. From last month onwards, the situation has improved as more COVID patients have been coming to the hospital, and we have resumed elective surgeries and procedures, and as a result, we have been able to pay full salary to our employees from last month onwards. And the third most important challenge was the meeting of government demands and following government protocols. The government demanded half of all the beds for COVID government referred patients, which made it difficult for us to care for non-COVID patients and private COVID patients. With different ministries of the government attempting to outdo each other with their own expert guidelines, expectations changed frequently, and unreasonable and uncoordinated demands for data, beds, recommendations, waiver of bills, etc. were made on a daily basis. This added to the stress of COVID patient management. To deal with this challenge, we held regular meetings with ministers and other healthcare officials to make them understand and accept our constraints, especially of infrastructure and manpower. Those were the three major challenges. And what is the new normal for us, for hospitals? Well, it is very hard to say. From a hospital point of view, I think segregation of COVID and non-COVID patient services will remain for many months more, if not for over a year. Secondly, rapid diagnostics tests to determine real-time status of infection would be required. Universal precautions like PPE, masks, scrubs, hand washing, etc. will become a new normal. Segregated ICU, ITU, respiratory versus non-respiratories are required. Teleconsultations and home care, which St. John's has already initiated, will also be likely to be the new normal. I would like to end by paying a grateful tribute to our healthcare workers, our doctors, nurses, and the supporting staff who have, with dedication and commitment, devoted themselves fully to COVID care in spite of the many dangers and concerns they have. God bless them, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Father Paul, for your insights and the way going forward for a for a big, huge hospital, which is interesting to note, considering most of our members are small hospitals across the country, but I'm sure they will learn a lot from you going forward. Thank you very much. Sister Sarla Makwan is the National President of the Catholic Nurses Guild of India. She has a master's degree in nursing and an MBA in healthcare administration. With over 20 years of experience at the grassroots and institutional work. She was the former administrator and executive director of St. Elizabeth's Hospital. Her expertise is in disaster management and riot and earthquake relief operations. I call upon Sister Sarla, who has been on the front lines of battling this pandemic, to share her experience and challenges of the pandemic and the way forward in the near future. Over to you, Sister Sarla.
Thank you, Anuvida. Good morning to Your Eminence Cardinal Oswald Gracious, Most Reverend Bishop Prakash Malavarapu, Father Matthew Abraham, Sister Victoria, and all my dear participants. Thank you, CHAI, for inviting CNGI to express our views on this pandemic. Globally, the nursing profession is celebrating a milestone in 2020 as the WHO declared it the International Year of the Nurse and Midwife in honor of the 200th birth anniversary of Florence Nightingale. We were so glad to know that at last the world has recognized the nurses for all the services done to humanity. Soon our joy turned into fear as we realized that it meant a year of great challenge when the corona pandemic came as a big blow to all of us, in a special way to all the nurses and healthcare workers. The coronavirus struck the entire globe, where many precious lives were lost and the crisis is still on. Across the world, nurses are risking their lives to save patients in the struggle against COVID-19. As you see, the nurses have been facing numerous challenges in COVID care. I have limited into 3 M's: challenges with manpower, challenges with material, and challenges with money. Next slide. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The challenges and response with manpower was shortage of staff, especially shortage of nurses, fears, phobias of getting infected, lack of knowledge of COVID care, long duty hours with PPE, the biggest challenge, family pressure to quit the job, absenteeism due to fear and transport problems, demand for higher remuneration or reimbursement. And all these challenges were met. As we responded as the shortage of staffs, many volunteers came and were motivated to come forward and help out. There were many retired nurses, Catholic nurses, who came forward to help out in this pandemic. The lack of knowledge, the fears were met by individual and group counseling, motivation, reassurance, asking them to join back the duties. The knowledge was through training related to COVID-19 care, through preventing, that is doffing of PPE, social distancing, mask and steam inhalation. For curative, we had nursing management of all the patients. The nurses were asked, because there were many specialized nurses who did not know to care for respiratory and clinical critical patients. In promotive, knowledge of rehabilitation during quarantine, example also along with the medication, diet, breathing exercise, and many other things. Also management of biomedical waste, assurance of medical care to self, insurance to families, giving them a sense of security that they will be cared for. These were the responses and manpower. Next slides, please. Next slides. Response to challenges in material management. Shortage of material was a great challenge. New systems were created in the hospitals. Initially, we had no PPE. So later on, this was met of by purchase lack of material due to unforeseen emergency, which were taken into account later. Distribution through the purchasing department looked into use of material, that is shortage of PPE at the start, which were managed by ordering a large number of the same. Thanks to CHAI, who also helped us in obtaining PPE. Maintenance and disposal. Training for disposal and maintenance was conducted for all the staffs. Communication, it was very, very important, and we had to help the nurses to communicate in a proper manner, especially not to talk in front of their patients or relatives that things are not available. Next slide, please. To also respond to material management, some of our sister nurses in the remote areas and also in the urbans started stitching the mask caps and distributed to people and to the hospitals. Challenges with finance, with money. This cost to the company and to each one. All the materials, example PPE, sanitizers, gloves, masks, were a big expense. COVID remuneration for staff, daily wage employees due to shortage of staffs. We had to give extra offs and leaves to staffs and other workers. Overtime payment, medical treatment for self and family, and good diet and nutrition to the nurses who are residing at the hostels of the hospitals. These were the many challenges with finances, and this was not budgeted. So the response was that we had to give them duty alternating with quarantine, enough rest period to all the staffs who were finding it difficult to come to the hospitals were also given residence, hostels, facilities during this crisis. And if staff and the family members were infected, then they were given quarantine period payment, and also the family members were treated free of cost. Next slide, please. So what is the new normal going to be for each one of us in a special way for all the nurses? And so it is nothing but acceptance, accepting this pandemic, social distancing, change in lifestyle, especially parties, family gatherings, picnics, and so on, lessened or cancelled. More family times, that is close-knit family, meaning of family life, inculcating family values, respect for each other. We may have to have change in uniform patterns as we already started wearing PPE. Decrease in, maybe there will be decrease in nursing staff because many are frightened, may not go for nursing. Demand for good remuneration as nurses are risking their lives and their families due to pandemic. There may be new policies in nursing education, especially distance learning. Maybe nurses, the student nurses will have to be trained how to be practical during pandemic. Then finally, for all Catholic nurses, for all the Christian nurses, the way forward is from fear to love. From fear of the virus to knowledge of it through available resources, training and discussion. From fear of getting ill to a change in attitude through care for self and patient, using all precautions for both. From fear of relating to patients to the practice of compassionate care to the patient and relatives through loving communication. It is ultimately our attitude, and attitude changes everything. This pandemic has taught us what life is about: simplicity, spirituality, and uncertainty. Simplicity, we have learned to live with lesser things in life. simple lifestyle. Spirituality, yes, all of us have turned towards God, yes. It was prayer life that helped all of us, especially nurses, to care with compassion, with wearing PPE. And uncertainty, we all know what is going to happen. We do not know what is going to happen, but we are prepared that God will help us. And with faith, hope, and love, all our nurses, lay, religious, be it in the institution, healthcare centers, government, non-government, corporate, we all have served our humanity with faith, hope, and love. And we promise to continue with faith, hope, and love to give compassionate healing care to all our patients. Thank you, dear friends, for inviting and appreciating all our nurses. And as a president of Catholic Nurses Guild, I want to appreciate all our nurses, lay and religious, for really risking your life and helping out. Some of you have distributed food grains, helped in awareness, as you have volunteered even though you were seniors and retired. All of you have done, and I salute each one of you for all that you have done to humanity. Thank you very much. Thank you, CHAI.
Thank you, Sister Sarla, for talking about the attitude of the nurses. And actually, they have demonstrated that in heaps and heaps. Thank you so much for your talk with us today. At this point of time, I would like to say that Father Julius Arakal has sent in his apologies for not being able to be here today, as he's taking on his new responsibilities at the hospital in Kerala. We pray for him and his new responsibilities going forward. Now, the next presentation, we have three speakers. Reverend Father Matthew Abraham, CSSR, Director General CHAI, Mr. John Santosh, Billion Lives, and Father Johnson Varapalli, CMI, the CEO of Rajagiri Hospital, Kochi. Father Matthew Abraham has spent 10 years in various leadership positions in Catholic healthcare. He has served as the Secretary CBCI and the Chairman of the Technical Resource Group at the National AIDS Control Organization. He is presently the President of Christian Coalition for Health and the Chairperson of Link Asia Network. Mr. John Santosh began his career at Asia Brown Boveri and at Citibank's IT team. He started his first entrepreneurship with GIEOM Business Solutions in 2010. He created a software product that is used by over 40 institutions globally. He thereafter went on to found Billion Lives, a social impact technology company which is used by the Government of India and various state governments. Father Johnson has been the Secretary of the Rajagiri Healthcare and Education Trust since its inception. He has been the Corporate Manager of SH Corporate Education Agency. He has undergone training at All India Institute of Medical Sciences and the Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, in executive courses for healthcare executives. He is currently pursuing a course on safety, quality, and informatics and leadership at the Harvard Medical School, Boston. Over to you for your presentation on telehealth.
Thank you, Anuvinda. It's so amazing to listen to all this wonderful work that is happening within the network, especially the church. So can we have the full screen? Yeah, let me quickly go through this. This is a joint presentation. So I will present the context and the scope or the why for this telehealth project. Next slide, please. So why telehealth? No, the challenges. The first one was the COVID crisis, and COVID is going to stay for some more time. And people are afraid to visit hospitals, and hospitals are afraid of spreading infection. And there are also financial challenges for hospitals because the number of patients visiting has come down. So these are some of the challenges that led us to think about telehealth. Next slide, please. What are the opportunities in telehealth? Because of the COVID crisis, government had come with reforms for promoting telehealth. So it has become much more friendly. Earlier, it was not that easy. So these new norms, guidelines are helpful for telehealth. The private and government hospitals are also moving into telehealth. The government is also into telehealth. Hospitals like corporates like Apollo is into telehealth. But we know we have a space because of our mission, the kind of work which we do, and also the kind of people which we reach. Home-based care is the new normal. Now people are talking about it as the new normal. Nobody wants to go to hospitals because of several reasons today. And there is also an untapped potential within the CHAI network. 3,500 members, ranging from primary care to secondary care to tertiary care to medical education, reaching so many villages all over the country. The numbers, the reach, all those things are strengths. So how do we tap that? The immediate context of thinking of telehealth was the financial sustainability webinars we organized. All the speakers spoke about the financial crisis they were facing in the hospitals. So we organized a series of webinars on financial sustainability, and one of the webinars was telehealth. In that, we had speakers. We had several discussions before the meeting, after the webinar, and we realized that Father Johnson is already doing from Rajagiri Hospital is already doing telehealth for the past 2 or 3 years, reaching even to the African countries. So we felt, and he was very keen to reach the remote, especially the remote places of our country in this context, and his willingness was very much there. We also had have this network of sister doctors, almost 1,000 of them. Most of them in small towns or even the tribal and villages. So Sister Beena also was involved in the initial discussions. So their willingness to be part of this. How do we support each other? In addition to this, 80% of our membership is small health centers managed by sister nurses, and they have to do it because there are no doctors there. These are places where doctors will not go. We have a community health project, existing project, which is working with this new with small health centers. So we felt that maybe in this COVID context, we should include this telehealth component where we could link our villages to the sister nurses, to the sister doctors, and to our bigger hospitals. So what we are doing now is only a pilot project, connecting 80 villages in Andhra, Tamil Nadu, and UP through 16 of our nurse-run health centers with 15 sister doctors and Rajagiri as the hub. And we also have very strong technical partners like Billion Lives and Indian Health. So we felt this is the right time to move on to telehealth. Next slide, please. Yeah, the scope is a space frame model. If this pilot, that is for 6 months, if it works, I'm sure that it will work, but the learning from this pilot can be translated into scaling it into our whole network. Linking our primary health centers, those who are involved in community health, nurse-run health centers, the social service societies, to the secondary care centers, to sister doctors in hospitals, and to the tertiary care centers, the bigger hospitals and the medical colleges, with CHAI on one side as the implementing partner, our member institutions, regional units, and directorate, and along with our competent technical partners. Next slide, please. So this is also a realization of our vision document that we discussed in our last AGBM, Vision 2030. The principle we use here is interdependence, and the strategy we use is Tech and Innovation Lab. Let me conclude with this quote from our vision document. CHAI must test new strategies to increase efficiency and contain costs. The aim of the Tech and Innovation Lab is to support primary care centers with tools like telemedicine that empower a nurse-led center with qualified medical doctors and specialists from elsewhere within the network. Next slide, please. Thank you. So with this brief introduction, I hand over to John Santosh to explain a little more details about how we are going to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. Dear respected leaders of CHAI, dear members,
It's a matter of pride and honor to be here at the 77th AGBM to introduce this CHAMPS program to all of you. I'm of the strong belief that this program is going to strengthen our dynamic and resilient network, which is already working at the grassroots levels. Let's move to the next slide. As CHAMPS as a program, its intent is to take telemedicine to the doorsteps of our patients. The technology of telemedicine is not new to many of you, but the way we are looking at it is the type of network we are. How can we take to the doorsteps of our patients using technology, but at the same time make it sustainable? Let's move to the next one. While putting the base design of it, we also borrowed some aspects from the Vision 2030 document that Father Matthew mentioned. Two aspects of that. Many of the corporate hospitals look at us in a way that we are working in areas that are not attractive to them. Another way of looking at this, the way of quality and affordable care that we provide through our sisters are not even aware, the world is not fully aware of what we can do. Through this CHAMPS program, we are going to turn the situation today and say that we can touch a lot more people in the grassroots level, at the same time making that initiative a sustainable initiative for the hospitals and the network. Move to the next slide. So the center of this program is a CHAMP. CHAMP is a person, a volunteer in the network. While it is a telehealth, it is centered around this social entrepreneurship thinking. In our health centers, we know there are people who are connecting with us as volunteers. They help us take patients to the hospital. They are doing one work or other. We want to bring them formally into this network and make them our legs who will take our telemedicine to the doorsteps of the patients now. Why is it important today? First thing, our health centers can reduce the number of walk-ins daily in the current state of COVID. Second thing is, with available facilities and infrastructure, we'll be able to touch more people using the telemedicine and the CHAMPS. And very interestingly, we will make livelihood for a volunteer who gets connected to this network initially. Next slide. For this to happen, there is a need for the system to come together and connect. The sister nurse will have to onboard a particular CHAMP into the system. So this is where a mobile app will come in. Let's move to the next slide. So in this mobile app, the first step is the CHAMP will need a smartphone, and the job to do for the sister nurse at the health center is to just onboard the CHAMP as a person into the system. We collect some basic information, the name, the mobile number, and very important, we collect a national ID, a government issued ID, and to take a picture of that, just to be sure that we know who the person is. And like you charge any mobile currency, like you load a Airtel or a Jio, we also load some currency as the CHAMPS currency. CHAI has made an offer that every CHAMP who starts the project will get 500 rupees preloaded by CHAI. So you get a mobile app where you are now ready to go and provide services in the community. Let's move to the next slide. CHAMP is now a person in the area. They know where the need is. They know where the patients are. They can get to the doorsteps of the patient, use the mobile app, and the health center can fix what should be the consultation cost per call. Suppose it is 30 rupees per consultation or 20 rupees, whatever that is decided. CHAMP will collect that in cash from the patient so that there is a system in place, that there is a sustainability in this whole process, that collected the cash, and when they click on a button on this app, the call gets connected to the health center and the sister nurse can receive the call at the other end. Now, while this is happening, a 30 rupees will be deducted from the initial loading that you're done, like the way we make a mobile call. Let's move to the next slide. So this is the way the number of clicks that the CHAMP has to do is quite minimal. First thing is collect some basic information from the patient. It could be as basic as the mobile number. If they're able to type, the language is not a barrier, they can type the name of the patient. Then one click to say connect to the sister nurse at the health center. Move to the next slide.
Once the sister nurse accepts the call, it is also a call coming to her mobile number, and the call is a video call like what we do in a WhatsApp video. The call is happening. If the case can be handled by the sister nurse and there is no medication needed, the call can be addressed at that point. But if the sister nurse believes there is a need for a doctor consult at this time, we are connecting the health centers to the member institutions, where every health center is paired to a hospital where a doctor is connected, and the time availability of the doctor is already pre-configured in the system. So at that point, the sister nurse can suggest the CHAM who is in the field with the patient that you may now want to fix another call with the sister doctor. Now here, when the call is connected to the sister doctor, the basic information, the profile building of the patient is already done by the sister nurse. So the time a sister doctor would spend with the patient will be minimal. So the system has a capability to make sure that the data collected is available for the doctor. Move to the next slide. When the doctor is taking the call, and if the doctor believes this particular case need a specialty touch and there's a specialist consult needed, that's where the offer came from Rajgiri. Rajgiri's telemedicine facility will be part of this initiative. Such cases where there is a need for a specialist consult, then the same process can follow. The CHAM can book a specialist consult, and the specialist will get to know all the transactions, the engagement that has happened so far at all the levels, and they will have all the background. So the time they spend will also be considerably reduced. Let's move to the next slide. So once the CHAM runs out of the initial currency that has been loaded, they can come back to the health center and then recharge their CHAM app. And at this time, they will know if the rate for a call is 20 rupees and what they earn out of that is 5 rupees, they can recharge only for the portion of the call that is not their portion. So for a 10 call, they can pay 150 rupees, and that will give them ability to make 10 calls while they collect 200 rupees from the patients. So that way they're getting a sustainable livelihood for these CHAMs, and they are going to be our evangelists out there, touching the lives of people who are not able to come to the hospital and get the services within our hospital network. Move to the next slide. So what do they need the infrastructure? At the CHAM level, a smartphone is always needed. At the nurse, a smartphone is good enough, but if there is a computer, that's a bonus. At the doctor level, it will be ideal to have a computer because they're going to connect. At times, they need to connect the sister nurse and the CHAM because a three-way call is possible in this network. Let's move to the next slide. So, as Father Matthew said, the background, this is going to be the foundation or the first layer, what we want to put together for the space frame layout to get it tested in this pilot to say that a patient sitting in the rural India can get the best services from the network, starting from a health center to a hospital to a specialist center like Rajgiri, all in this one framework. And in that process, we also make livelihood for that CHAM who is taking the services to the doorsteps of the patient. Let's move to the next slide. I like to quote this one line from the Vision 2030 statement from our Archbishop Prakash Malvarappu. Move together in solidarity and support each other. Bring the network together to utilize the strength of one member to build on the strength of another and incorporate modern technology solutions. And CHAM is an attempt to make this message a reality. Thank you.
Thank you, John. We'll now move on to Father Johnson.
Hi, friends. Nice to see you again. I hope that I am audible. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Just 2-3 days back, I hope that I'm a CMI. So 2-3 days back, we just finished our general synaxis. And one of the resolutions we adopted in our general synaxis was to expand the health technologies, including telehealth. And the purpose or the motive was to reach out to the remotest parts of India. So this, is a trend that's happening. I think in different parts of the world, may be coming part of the new normal. I understand that many of the corporate hospitals, they all go for in a big way to telehealth services. So that's going to be, in a big way, it's going to move forward. That does not mean that we are going to stop our traditional way of treating patients. This is not going to substitute what's happening today. Telehealth is only going to be a kind of supportive system, maybe to augment what we are doing. So this is what we are trying to plan out and execute through CHAI. So when we say that it is it is going to be a trial model, that's the place where Rajagiri comes to the limelight. It should be a process and a structure where all the hospitals who are capable of dealing with these supporting services should come forward, meaning all the tertiary care hospitals or quaternary care hospitals should be part and parcel of this initiative. And what is our ultimate aim? Our ultimate aim is that we need to move forward with the current technologies. Otherwise, we will be isolated. So this is what I have to primarily say. Rajagiri, when Father Matthew and the CHAI people asked me whether we can be active in this project, I said definitely yes. Why not? Rajagiri takes it not as a duty, but it's as a privilege to move with this new initiative. I think we should not shy away from this. When John Santosh presented the whole idea of this telehealth services, even when I heard, there are a lot of things explained in a very short time. It's not that complicated. When we really come to the practical way of dealing with telehealth services, it's going to be very simple. I'm not a technologist, and my hospital is doing it in a big way, in a successful way. This can have two aspects. One, that will make us business-wise more intelligent, and number two, that will make us very well equipped with reaching out to the distant parts of the world, including the remotest parts of India's villages. So what I have to tell you all, not big things, but Rajagiri in small way, will be with you in this journey of transforming the way we handle healthcare. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Father Matthew, John, and Father Johnson, for this wonderful initiative that you all are taking up. I wish you all the best going forward in this initiative. Thank you so much. I now call upon Father Matthew Abraham, Director General of CHAI, to present the CHAI Directorate's COVID-19 response. Over to Father Matthew.
Thank you, Anavinda. Let me make it as brief as possible. We are running a little behind the schedule, but I think these were very, very enriching, sharings. Yeah. So COVID-19 challenges, responses, and the new normal. Next slide, please. The challenges we faced, I would put it under three categories. The challenges faced by the CHAI Directorate, the CHAI Network, and personal challenges. Well, CHAI Directorate, one fine morning, the staff got stuck at home, lockdown. So we had to implement all our existing projects and activities, and people were not used to working from home. They had to take care of children because children were also stuck at home. There were nobody to cook for them because the helpers were not coming. So with all those confusion, that's the first challenge we faced. The next challenge was CHAI as a network. There was a lot of uncertainty, fear, and anxiety among the member institutions. Most of the details you heard from the previous speakers. Financial crisis among the hospitals was a huge problem, and the amount of resources required in this area is unimaginable. So this is something which, as a network, of course, as a person, I also faced this to strike a balance between ministry and life. I won't call it just work-life balance. First, it is a ministry, the personal burnout, and the struggles of a CEO, the staff getting burned out, the clashes among the staff, the turnover of staff. Some could not cope with this. So all these kind of things as a CEO also we faced. I'm not going to go into the details of personal struggles in this presentation. Those who want to listen to that can call me personally. Thank you. Next slide, please. So responding to these challenges, the staff stuck at home. So we moved into the virtual functioning of the directorate. We had a senior management team. So that was the first thing that we regrouped and we worked together. And a lot of this planning happened in that daily meetings. And then we also developed guidelines for reopening the office. But even today, we are not able to reopen the office fully because the situation in Hyderabad is not very great. It's worsening day by day. So staff have elderly people at home, children at home, pregnant people at home. So they are finding it difficult to come to office. But part of it is partly working, especially the finance team and all are working from office. We also developed some monitoring systems for working from home. The daily logs, the trackers, the progress mechanisms, all those things, program reviews, all those things we worked out. Every Monday morning, we all the staff meet together for a virtual meeting for prayer and important discussions. Next slide, please. Responding to the challenges of this uncertainty, fear, and anxiety among the member institutions. So that's where we organized a lot of webinars, and we had a CHAI Academy, but it was it became online academy once COVID started. So initial webinars were connected with the COVID preparedness, and it also brought the hospitals together to learn from each other, the principle of interdependence. So it was helpful for them. And then we also brought in people who could speak about how to work with the government, got experts working on MOUs to help each other. So that was webinars. And then we also had online courses for hospital directors, administrators, for doctors, for nurses, and for those who are in community outreach. So these short courses, which they could do at their own pace, these were self-paced courses, was also helpful. Later on, several other courses, like the course from University of Melbourne. Right now we are working on an online course with CMC Vellore. So all those things were also helpful to deal with some amount of these difficulties. We established a help desk. As of now, 74 of our institutions are involved in COVID care. I'll come to the details a little later. Next slide, please. When it came to financial crisis among hospitals, we again organized webinars on long-term sustainability, and this whole idea of telehealth came in those kind of webinars and meetings and consultations. And some of those ideas are slowly getting translated into projects, which probably will help some of our institutions to leverage the strength of a network. For example, telehealth, smart procurement, and so on. We also wrote to some of our existing, many of our existing funding partners and new partners for financial support. So we were able to support 49 hospitals with PPE kits. Compared to the need of the network and the hospitals, this is a small support. We still need a lot of resources in this area, and we are still trying to mobilize resources. We developed, we helped our member institutions to develop memorandum of understandings, MOUs, at the local level. We had consultations at the national level, the Prime Minister's meeting and the follow-up and all those things. But then health is a state subject, and all the dynamics happens at the district level. So we helped our institutions to, we gave them templates which they could customize and use it. Some places it worked. The government even paid salaries, facilities rent and PPE. But in some places, hospitals went to bitter experience. It depends upon what kind of leadership is there at the government at that level. So that's another intervention we could do. When it came to resource mobilization, we wrote to existing partners, Tata Trust, did not give money but gave PPs directly to institutions. Overall, we could raise about 3.3 crores for this purpose, which compared to the need of the network is a small amount. And right now we are working on another 3.5 project of 3.5 crores, and the contract is yet to be signed, but discussions are going on. Next slide, please. So this is the kind of a breakup of the institutions that are involved in COVID care, 74 of them. You can see them involved at various levels as quarantine centers, as COVID care centers, as dedicated hospitals, and also as COVID health centers. You can also see the breakup, of state-wise and region-wise. Next slide, please. In addition to all this, we also initially we also mobilized some socioeconomic support because people were going hungry, especially the migrant laborers. So our existing funding partners provided us some resources. So we are implementing this project in 17 states with 56 of our partners, supporting 3,250 families for 6 months, and with the help of 7 funding partners. 1,500 of these families are children with disabilities. Most of these families are migrant laborers, widows, and so on. One of the innovation we tried here is a geotagging mechanism where we could we have real-time data of where these kits are distributed, which location, what day, which time, and all those things. This is something which is very much appreciated by the funding partners because this promotes transparency and efficiency. Next slide, please. And what is the new normal? Next slide, please. The new normal for me is all virtual meetings. Now look at this CHAI AGBM. Every year we conduct the AGBM, and we need at least 4 months of intense work to organize an AGBM, which we are doing now in 4 weeks. There were more than 650 registrations. We know because of connectivity problems, some people might have lost, they may not could trace their link to join. Some of them might have gone into spams. So we still have about 335 participants here. So in a way, it is also an opportunity, how we could, without wasting much time, money, we could come together and learn from each other. We also had CHAI regional meetings, 11 meetings in 3 weeks. To organize this as a face-to-face meetings, you know how much time and energy it is going to take. All our staff team meetings, everything, project reviews happening in the virtual platform. Virtual trainings and capacity building is another new normal which I perceive. The University of Melbourne scholarship, 40 sister doctors participated in this. To take them to the university in Australia, in Melbourne, and to have this course is very expensive and time consuming, and most of the time sisters may not be able to spare that time, but they could attend, 40 of them attend this thing. We had international webinars with Link Asia, where people joining from Africa, Latin America, other Asian countries. All these things are impossible without a virtual platform. It would have been very costly. Now we have a CMC online course. 42 of our institutions are involved in an advanced course where they are trained, and they in turn will train all the members of their institutions. And then 85 of them are attending a basic course. All these are possible today, without much time and energy. Right now we are working on a community health course for those who are working in the health centers and also in the community with Sochara, another organization. Any number of people can be part of this, but 40 of them will be also supported with some kind of a mechanism where they can work on a project, a small project. Telehealth solutions, you heard about it. And one interesting thing happened is a global sisterhood meeting. Now, also I don't want to leave out the brothers, so I just put it in bracket. There were sisters from US, Europe, Africa, Australia, and India. From India, they invited me. This was something amazing, and they were talking about global sisterhood, rising above just their own congregations and how we can make a difference. We all know that forces of exploitation come together to exploit. Why not forces of the kingdom of God come together? And today, probably, it is possible even with limited resources because of these technology and possibilities. Next slide, please. well, this is not part of the COVID crisis, but we are just recovering from the COVID crisis, and here is another crisis that is going to hit us, the FCRA Amendment Act, which happened in September this year. I will not be going into the details of this, but we will reach out to you. We are working on, our finance team is working on this. We will reach out to you to figure out solutions and to move forward in this area. Unfortunately, because of time constraints, even in the business session, we will not be able to take up the details of this. But we will definitely, we are working on it. We'll get back to you. Next slide, please. I conclude there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Father Matthew, for giving us a comprehensive coverage of the COVID response by CHAI. We will now like to say thank you to His Eminence, Cardinal Gracious, His Grace, Archbishop Mallavarapu, Sister Victoria, Father Matthew, and all the speakers of this inaugural session of the CHAI AGBM. Thank you for your valuable time and thoughts that you have shared with us. We will now be going into a small break